when they actually create foods like that, their goal is to be able to make sure that somebody only needs to chew 5 times before it actually is able to be swallowed.
Isn't that crazy?
So they do studies to make sure that these foods can be chewed less to get into your system quicker, so therefore you can eat more. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm excited about our conversation today.
Me too. Foods and moods, mental health, physical health, nutrition, mental clarity. Bring it.
It's huge, isn't it? So often I don't think that people give enough value for what they put in their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about this a couple of times before, right? Like, we only get this one body. We want to make sure that we take advantage of it. Take care of it, right?
Yeah.
So that we can take advantage of it, right? And that we can utilize it the way that it's supposed to for as long as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many things that are, so much marketing that's pumped into us. And we'll probably do a whole other episode on this, right?
I hope so.
As far as the marketing fallacies.
Some myths.
Yeah, debunking all of that garbage that people put out there just to be able to sell a bunch of food. And but give us a little bit of an insight on, as your background as a psychologist,
Mm-hmm.
right? Obviously, mental health and mental wellness is of utmost priority to you.
Mm-hmm.
And we've just been talking a lot more about the fact that rather than medications, like foods play a huge role in that.
Mm-hmm.
And we've even talked about too, like the blood screening that we're going to do on me to see how mentally fit I am. And just kind of give me some recommendations on food changes and stuff like that. So why don't we just dive into this?
Yeah,
and
I
you
love it.
Go wherever you want to, and
Okay.
And we'll kind of just riff back and forth and go from there.
Well, to your point about marketing, I think people have to be very, aware of marketing, because there's a lot of marketing myths and straight up BS.
Yeah.
When we talk about foods and moods, people often don't realize the extent to which foods do affect their moods. Before we got rolling today, you were talking about the standard American diet and how crappy it is.
How sad
it's like putting gunky oil into a Lamborghini, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a Lambo, but
Not yet.
Probably too short for a Lambo anyway. But that's really what we're doing, and of course it gunks up, our body. So what I thought we would do today is kind of, I know you and I both have prepared some notes, because I think the importance of this can't be overstated. Marketing tells us to eat certain foods, that certain foods are healthy for our body. They're going to energize us. They're going to fuel us. I think of Red Bull, and Monster drinks. Oh, the great energy drinks. But they just kind of corrode your mind and they corrode your body. And as a psychologist for many, many years before I started studying functional medicine and integrative medicine here at the center, classic cases of mood disorder, whether they be depression or anxiety or bipolar, a lot of times those are caused directly by foods. In fact, I know this isn't on my notes today, but I'm reminded of research that was done in psych hospitals, and they showed that psychiatric hospitalization stays, the extent to which, usually it's anywhere from a week to 2 weeks or 4 weeks, that when they removed sugars, dairies, and grains, hospitalizations stays were reduced by 50%.
Oh my gosh.
50% for psych hospitalizations. And that included, and I think they did a study on admissions as well, as when you change the diet, psychiatric admissions were reduced by 50%. That's
Holy
crazy.
cow.
So if that doesn't speak volumes about how much food affects our mental health, I don't know what does. And then when the researchers reintroduced those foods, the grains, the sugars, and the dairies, as expected, hospitalization rates, the admission rates went up, and of course, length of stay went up.
Wow.
So it's crazy. So I think the importance of food and, nutrition on physical health, it can't be overstated. So, one of the things that's important is like balancing your macronutrients.
Okay.
And so people, we hear macronutrients and micronutrients, but a lot of people really don't know what they are. But they're your carbs, they're your proteins, they're your healthy fats.
Yep.
You need that fuel for workouts. Your brain needs that fuel to be able to function, properly, focus, memory, attention, concentration, those kind of things. And they repair muscle growth too. So the first thing I would say is focus on having a balance of those. And, one of the things we talk to our patients about here at the center is, the perfect plate. You've probably heard of the perfect plate, healthy, lean proteins, healthy fats, some good complex carbs.
Yeah.
But, balance your macronutrients for sure.
Do you have, I know that there's a lot of tools out there, the MyFitnessPals, all of that stuff, right? That gives you a certain like percentage of each of those, right? Do you have a recommendation on percentage of fats versus carbs versus
it's a great question.
Protein
it really depends on what your goals are.
Yeah.
So if your goal is to lose weight, there's a certain percentage.
Sure.
If your goal is to maintain weight, if your goal is to add muscle, you'll want to, adjust that.
Yeah.
But generally you want about 40 to 45% of like lean proteins. You want about 10 to 15% of healthy fats, and the rest in complex carbs.
Okay.
That would be considered the perfect plate.
Yeah. So lots of grains and those.
I'm glad you brought that up. We're both chuckling about it. We've got this devious chuckle. So, that's
the marketing myth, right? That we're talking about.
Myth
one of the big ones is that, like, if you get a whole wheat bread, you're good to go, versus getting the Wonder Bread.
Yeah. They're both bad. It couldn't be further from the truth. The whole food pyramid, it should be flipped on its head. The base tells us that, most of what we should eat on a daily basis are whole grains. Couldn't be further from the truth. They're delicious. I love pancakes. And French toast and cinnamon rolls. I love all that stuff.
Yep.
But the grains, the bran muffins and all this, no, it actually really, it destroys our body. It's a huge contributor to overall inflammation in our body and our brain. In fact, there's a couple of great books I'll refer our viewers and our listeners to.
Sure.
Grain Brain by Dr. David Perlmutter. He talks about how grains are literally eating our brains away, and it's a big contributor to the dementias. Grains generally break down into sugars, and sugars are a leading cause of dementia. Dr. William Davis, he's an integrative cardiologist up in Wisconsin. He has done great books on how the dangers of grains, and how about 10,000 years ago, when we started moving from kind of a hunt and gather society to more of an agrarian society, where we're just discovering grains and we're planting our farms, how that was the start of our modern lifestyle diseases as well. So he's done a lot of great work. So the whole grains thing, it tastes wonderful, but it couldn't be worse for our body. So minimize your grains. If you're going to enjoy them, totally enjoy them, but don't make it a staple, honestly, in your diet.
For sure.
When we talk about the muffin top around here, a lot of that's grains, and you had made a point that they literally will change our DNA too.
We'll have to link to some of this research, right, to make sure that like we're obviously citing the right things. The last thing that we want to be is those individuals who are like, oh, we've heard this at some point.
No.
I know that you're very.
I read it on Google.
That's the source of all information and wisdom and knowledge.
That's true.
Obviously you're very versed in all of these things, right? But I would like to link to some of these things. Some of these grains that were introduced, especially 1940s, 1950s, when cereal came, when Cheerios started fixing our heart health.
Oh my God!
Back in the 1950s.
Oh, it's all marketing.
Some of the ingredients that are processed into those are not necessarily immediately poor for the individual who's eating them, but also can be latent and changing DNA, which is not as bad for, which is worse for future generations. Which is why, because I always ask the question, and we're getting a little away from mental health and those sort of things, but we'll get back to it, right? Because this is
good stuff.
But I've been asking the question a lot is, the more and more people that I see that are younger, whether it's kids or whether it's people that are in their 40s like myself or in their 30s, you just see more and more people that are developing cancer and developing diseases that I just was not aware of in the past. I find myself asking the question of, is it just because we're super connected to everybody now that as soon as somebody has an issue, we feel like we need to go ahead and post that on Facebook and Instagram, and therefore our lives are just out loud and we're just hearing more of it, on a faster basis? Or is it truly that there's just more people that are getting sick.
It's the latter.
And I've definitely come to the conclusion that it's the latter. It's like, when our parents were growing up, and my parents were 40 in their 40s, there just was not as many people that were dealing with, these cancers and diseases and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
It's definitely increased due to a big part. Yeah, obviously our environment has, something to say for that. But, what we put in our bodies. I mean, that's like the most direct thing that's going into our system, right?
That's exactly right.
And by changing that and making some simple changes, things can change dramatically. Even
Absolutely.
like we were talking a little bit about diabetes and early onset diabetes. It used to be called it used to be called early onset diabetes. Now it's type 2 diabetes, right? Because there's so many people that are getting it.
It's definitely acquired from lifestyle. It's not a genetic predisposition at all. It's acquired through lifestyle.
And you mentioned pancakes. People starting the day with like some hotcakes from McDonald's But unfortunately, just like the amount of glucose spike that puts in you first thing in the morning, that then all of a sudden your metabolism is wrecked for the rest of the day. When in actuality, if you start your day with more savory diet of eggs and, meats, good fats, those sort of things, like the American diet, we talked about the SAD diet, right?
Yeah.
The standard American diet is the only one that has in it like this. I shouldn't say the only one that has in it, but
it's garbage.
But it's trash.
It is.
It's
trash. We were talking before we started recording today, about busting marketing myths in orange juice. Orange juice is start every day with a tall glass of orange juice because it's really good for you.
Yes.
That is, I think, been consistently ranked the number one worst food for you because on average, a small glass of orange juice has 5 times your recommended daily allowance of sugars. So immediately all that sugar is dumping into your bloodstream, and then your pancreas has to work double and triple time to put out enough insulin to just re-regulate your blood sugar level. It's crazy. It's one of the worst things we can do. Yet, if we listen to what's, promoted on TV, it's like, oh my God, you really need to, start your day with orange juice. Or getting back to grains, but they're lifestyle diseases. I'm reminded of thyroid disorders. They have, increased tenfold in the last 20 years. That's not because, more people are talking about them. It really is our lifestyles. And with that comes, the dramatic increase in prescription medications. Americans take 74% of all prescription medications worldwide.
Wow.
Yet the American population is only 5% of the world's population. And we take 80% of all opioids worldwide. So now you've got the standard American diet, and then people are getting sicker, and then they're put on a boatload of medications, and those medications have side effects, and that's increasing lifestyle diseases too. Because, I'll give you an example. It's legal now to prescribe blood pressure medication and cholesterol medication as a preventative, but those have some serious side effects like leading cause of dementia, cholesterol medications, right? It's just sucking all that cholesterol out of our brain. And as we said on previous shows, cholesterol is a really good, healthy hormone, and our body needs it. So we've got a combination of really awful, food, combined with, the medical and pharmaceutical industry's agenda of keeping people on medications. And now you've got dramatic increases in diabetes, cancer, heart disease, autoimmune conditions, the dementias, all of that stuff. Whereas, if you just kind of tweak things a little bit, like you said, going back to macronutrients or perfect plate, you can really start to reverse a lot of these conditions. And it's predictable. And it's not complicated. It's like giving the body what it needs. It's not complicated. Yeah. And with that, when we talk about, mental health, like focus on whole foods. I would say again, grains, minimize grains, but fresh foods, fresh vegetables, lean meats, because they literally fuel your body. You need them. When we talk about fitness too, you need all of that for repair. Carbs are going to drive your energy. Lean proteins are going to provide that tissue growth and repair. So definitely focus on whole foods. That's another one.
Well, and one of the things too we've got on here is just that prioritizing protein.
For sure.
And a lot of people, I think that because they're trying to stay away from some of the red meats and they're trying to stay away from, maybe, just meat in general, right? They just don't get enough of what they need on a daily basis. And I've just made this simple switch. We had somebody over at the studio that recently, she lost 85 pounds in a matter of, from August to January, she lost 85 pounds. I was like, what are you doing? Because that's not all just HotWorks work. There's a lot of people that work out at HotWorks.
Yeah.
But none of them
great results.
None of them are losing 85 pounds in a matter of 4 or 5 months.
That's a lot of weight, and can be medically, risky.
Correct. I'm not promoting that.
Yeah, no,
right.
I know.
I know that healthily, females should be losing 1, maybe 2 pounds a week. Right. Is kind of a healthy, good weight loss. But I said, what are you doing in order to lose that 85 pounds? And she said, the only thing I've changed, I'm continually keeping up my workouts. I'm working out once a day, 40, 45 minutes, doing my isometric workouts, right, in the saunas. But then in addition to that, I've prioritized protein. She's like, I'm increasing my protein intake.
Yeah.
And she said, sometimes I feel like I'm eating way too much, but the weight still continues to come off. And because her body is just using what it's supposed to be using.
And it's tipping her body into fat burning mode instead of fat storing mode.
100%.
That's
100%.
fantastic.
So I've just made that simple change. And, consistently people are looking at me and like, are you losing more weight? And I am continuing
I
to
noticed
lose
it
weight.
this morning.
Even though I feel like I'm eating way too much.
Yeah.
But like when I'm eating something proteinous rather than eating something that like is just tastes good, right?
Yeah.
And the protein I eat tastes good, right? Like last night we made burgers. I had 2 of them.
You're making me hungry, Nate. Every time we talk, you make me hungry.
I know. We'll go out for lunch after this.
Yeah, okay. But that's pretty incredible, though, just how important protein is. And generally, as general rule, people don't get nearly enough protein that their body and their brain needs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people, it's kind of counterintuitive, like you said. She feels like she's eating more now than ever before, but she's eating nutrient-dense foods. And that's where the change happens, is fuel our body. When you fuel the body, you fuel the mind. And you need to know what the right foods are.
Yeah.
That's huge. Hydration, people,
huge.
People tend to think, I have a coffee, I'm having juice, and those are water based, so they think they're being hydrated, but anything other than like clean water, when you change the water molecule, it changes the absorption, so your body can't absorb it as much. So in order for physical fitness and mental clarity, you have to be hydrated. Like I noticed your pH balanced water. That's awesome. Yeah. But you can hydrate through clean water. Sometimes fresh fruits and fresh vegetables have water base in them too. So hydration is super, super key. And if, when we talk about physical fitness, if you're working out 45 to 60 minutes a day or whenever you're working out, you should be, hydrating an extra, 45 to 60 ounces, for every 45, 60 minute workout too. So hydration is really, really key. And it helps clear out all that gunk.
Yeah. What do you feel about like electrolytes? I mean, all the rage right now is like the elements and the, liquid IV, some of these. And I know some of them are designed like, Gatorade. We've looked at Gatorade and Powerade for so long. There's like, the electrolyte standard, but it's really just it's like orange
sugar.
Juice, right?
It's a sugar drink. That's all it is. And so the people are getting an increased burst of energy. It's not because of the electrolytes in those particular drinks. It's from the sugar.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Which is not at all healthy. Electrolyte balance is really, really key.
Sure.
Everything in our body was designed to be in balance. So getting enough electrolytes and true electrolytes is really, really important.
Yeah. For sure. Do you have any recommendations in regards to?
Do you have any recommendations?
Yeah.
I'm always going back to the sources. And if you can't get it straight from the source, get it from a supplement. Yeah. You can get it in drinks, but a lot of times when things are put into drink, it changes the molecular structure and then it's no longer active.
Okay.
So, get it from its source. Yeah. But you absolutely have to stay hydrated.
Yeah.
For sure. Especially, when you're doing any kind of infrared treatments.
For sure. Inside the sun, you're sweating so much, and you're detoxing so much out of your body, which is you're detoxing the good stuff as well as the bad stuff. but you want to put that good stuff back in,
You do.
right? So we always recommend, the potassium, sodium, combinations to be able to make sure that you're getting some of those back into your system. So, like the elements, or elements, I think is what it's pronounced, how it's pronounced.
I like
Those
elements
sort of
though. It
things.
sounds like super French and European.
Yeah, and
I think we should go with
yeah,
that.
it just reminds me of like my childhood days of saying the alphabet or something like that. But
Or I've heard omelet pronounced omelty, and I
that's
think
good.
that's perfectly okay because it's kind of melty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so hydration is huge. Lots of water.
Huge. Oh my gosh.
Lots of water.
I was just, reminded too, I wanted to make a note on proteins.
Yeah.
Because when people think of proteins, I think often just think of meat.
Yes.
But there are different sources for protein. There's your eggs, there's your legumes, there's, vegetables. So, you don't have to just eat meat to get, a good source of protein.
Good handful of almonds, throughout the day, and just having some good snacks like that.
Almonds, walnuts. Some of my favorites are cashews. Of course I love them salted, but it's not the best for me, but but still. Yeah. And then prioritizing omega-3 fatty acids too.
Okay.
Your avocados, again, your seeds, your
Love
nuts,
avocados,
all
some
of that stuff.
guacamole.
Did I show you my avocado dance? It's really lame, but I like it. My avocado dance. Avocado. Oh. I know, isn't that awful? It's ridiculous, people. But that's how much I love avocados. Like whenever I have an avocado. Guac. Okay. All right. Guac, all right. I like to say chips are just a vehicle for my guac because I can load up. I'll often put, healthy fats like coconut, into my smoothie in the morning. But it's really important if you're going to fuel your fitness and fuel your mind, your body needs really good, healthy fats too. And people are worried, we've been taught for so long through bad marketing, that fats are bad for you, but actually healthy fats, clean fats, essential fatty acids are really, really good for you. And our brain needs a lot of them too.
Yeah.
So you need to get like a good amount of omega-3 fatty acids. There are different types of omegas. We've got our 6s and our 9s, but we all need them in balance. But they support healthy cognitive functioning.
Okay. What are some of the other things that we need to pay attention to when it comes to mental health and nutrition and
mindful eating.
Okay.
Mindful eating.
Yeah.
So what do I mean by that?
What does that look like?
It means slowing down your eating. And I know this is going to sound really gross, but for every bite, we should be chewing it at least 20 times until it's kind of watery and just sliding down our throat.
Okay.
Not only does it allow us to enjoy what we're eating and really get the sensation of the foods, but when we slow down our eating, we tend to eat 30% less food.
Wow.
So mindful eating is really important for physical fitness because if you're trying to get physically fit, but if you're not paying attention, you're just shoveling it in your car or at your desk or, in between patients, we're much more likely to overeat. And when we talk about, absorbing all those good foods, if we're just shoveling it in, our mouth, we've got a lot of digestive enzymes in our saliva, we're not taking the time to break it down, and our gut's going to have a hard time absorbing those macro and micronutrients, which most of our mental health neurotransmitters, dopamine, GABA, norepinephrine, serotonin, those are converted in our gut. And those are reliant on healthy foods. So bringing it right back to mental health issues. Yeah. So slow down your eating because you'll eat less. So you're much more likely to be physically fit. Your food can then convert into the usable hormones that your mind and body needs.
Sure.
To reverse a lot of those chronic conditions, whether it be diabetes or depression. So mindful eating is hugely important. Like have the experience too. Take the time to enjoy that smoothie with the avocado. Or if you're going to splurge on occasion and have those pancakes, enjoy the pancakes. Again, make it.
Well, and I think that there's time for that, right? We don't want to, sit here, you or I, are picture perfect, eating like this all the time. Like I'm going to take away this mindful eating specifically. because I tend to, if I like something, I tend to like eat it up pretty quickly.
Me too. Me too.
You know, and I'm
I
just
told
like,
you I could go down the Dorito hole,
oh
right?
yeah,
That's like a vehicle for my guacamole, and then
well,
I feel like I'm getting the best of
both worlds.
yeah,
There you
the
go.
good and the evil.
Absolutely, as long as you got it on a little guacamole on that Dorito,
That's
why
how
not?
I justify it.
You know what's wild is I read an article not too long ago about, and you can read multitude of different articles just about how like Doritos. You know, you brought up like those snack foods,
Oh my god!
and just chewing
so
it 20
delicious.
times.
Yeah.
How when they actually create foods like that, their goal is to be able to make sure that somebody only needs to chew 5 times before it actually is able to be swallowed.
Isn't that crazy?
So they do studies to make sure that these foods can be chewed less to get into your system quicker, so therefore you can eat more. Exactly, right? I think of
true.
like the handful of like chips or popcorn, you know, that I'm just like shoving in my face.
I just, honest to goodness, especially when I'm watching TV or something, I'm just like a shovel.
Yeah.
So
that's a big tip that you were telling me too. Is just like not to eat in front of a TV or in front of a device of some sort.
We're much more inclined though to like, be just shoveling it in because it tastes so good, and they hyper stimulate our brain's pleasure centers. It's like, oh my god, I want more and I can't get more fast enough, so we're just shoveling it in.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So I like to do challenges with a lot of my friends and colleagues here at the Center for Integrative and Functional Health and Wellness, and people at my gym. So we were doing this transformation challenge. I think I mentioned in an earlier episode from January to mid-March. And, I got cut pretty quickly because I cut out alcohol and I cut out all my junk food. So people are like, and I was working out just as much as anybody else was working out.
Yeah.
But when I cleaned up my diet, it was remarkable how quickly my body transformed. It reminds me of your client that lost, 80 some pounds.
Yeah.
When you clean up your diet, you clean up your body, you clean up your mind, and everything in your world is enhanced. Sharper thinking, more energy, better sleep, better sex, better decisions.
Yeah.
All of it.
Those are all great things.
They are all great things. But it comes back to, understanding the role of food on your mind and the role of food on fitness. And yeah, it's crazy.
That's why with everybody that's wanting to get serious, as I always recommend a detox of some sort, right? Not one of these crazy detoxes where you're 5 feet from the bathroom for 3 days and stuff like that.
The 3-day detox, it's all crap.
It is.
Just avoid it.
But more of a long-term 14 or 30 days, just making sure that like you're teaching yourself good habits while you're doing it, but also taking a supplement that's clearing out your system a little bit.
Sure.
And just realizing how good you can feel off of all of those foods that you used to eat.
Yeah.
And I often find that it's not until somebody goes back to eating some of the same things that they ate before after a detox that they realize how good they felt when they were like eating clean and those sort of things, right? Because all of a sudden, like I did it personally. I had beer and wings like after a detox, like my 16th day after 14 days. But I was like, I'd really feel like beer and wings, so I went over to B Dubs, and but an hour afterwards, like I was asleep on the floor, like I was in the middle of our studio, and I'm just like,
Your body's like, what the heck
what did you do to me?
It was like an assault. Your mouth was like, oh my God, I'm in nirvana here. But your body's like, what the heck?
Yep. And then what did I go to afterwards? Caffeine, right? Like, I need a coffee.
It just sets the stage too.
Yeah. It's amazing how it made me realize how much of this like caffeine food, like roller coaster I was on every day without even realizing it.
Yeah.
And now I'm not.
For the most part. When you just made an excellent point when you're talking about, that roller coaster.
Yeah.
It's like your blood glucose levels too. It's like, honestly, I would recommend everybody wear a continuous blood glucose monitor for at least a week or 2 weeks so they can start becoming aware, whether you put it here or put it there, they can start becoming aware of, what they're doing to their body on a day-to-day basis in terms of that blood sugar roller coaster. Because when you're fueling your body with ultra processed foods or a ton of sugar, you're going to have some spikes in energy. And then those crashes are going to be really, really low, and they affect your mood too. And again, it kind of gunks up your mind. So manage
Yeah.
your blood sugar levels. Easiest way to do that is by eating like foods that are naturally occurring in the earth. Your
Sure.
fruits, your vegetables, your lean proteins, your macronutrients and your micronutrients.
Yeah.
We have a client, she had, extreme type 2 diabetes. A different client than we mentioned last time.
Okay.
She just started on one of our peak wellness programs, our functional medicine programs.
Cool.
Out of control type 2 diabetes, was now getting glaucoma and macular degeneration. So she's starting having, some early onset, eye problems.
Okay.
Moody beyond all belief, depressed, anxious, overweight. And so I was talking to her yesterday. Yesterday was day 30.
Okay.
And she's, obviously she's lost a significant ton of weight. She's already seeing better. And she says, the only time my blood sugar spikes now is in the morning with my smoothie, because she's putting a lot of fruit in it. I said, all right, let's dial back on the fruit.
Yeah.
But she's like, when I'm sleeping, every other part of my day, my blood sugar is always in the green now. She's feeling great. She's more hopeful. She's more optimistic. She's not having rage episodes. But that's how important it is to regulate our blood sugar. And the only way we're going to do that is through, fueling our body with the right foods and movement or exercise, which is what you guys do so well over at HowWorks.
Yeah, for sure. One of the tips I heard along the way is like, because it can be daunting sometimes in looking at, they call them health halo foods, where you're trying to like look at, and we've all experienced this, whether it's a fat-free yogurt or it's gluten-free or it's like all of these different things that are all over the shelves at the supermarket. What I've found to be helpful is like looking at that ingredients list. And if that ingredients list is 4 ingredients or less, and you understand what those ingredients are, then you can eat that item, right? Like make that a regular staple in your household. The one caveat to that is like seed oils. What they're finding with seed oils is not, that you should be staying away from that and staying more towards the olive oils, the avocado oils, and those sort of things, right? But and a lot of times, like if you do have some of those items that only have 4 ingredients, you'll see a canola oil, or you'll see like I even saw the other day, I got these almonds, and I try and get organic almonds. I just grabbed a bag of almonds, and it had wholly expressed canola oil as part of it. Like, and it's an almond. Like, why do I need canola oil in addition to my almond, right? Like. So unfortunately, I'm not going to eat those almonds. But 4 ingredients or less is a tip.
Absolutely,
it really helps.
And to your point, like if you can't pronounce it, what we call sciencese, if you can't pronounce it, stay away from it. In the halo foods, we talk about low fat, no sugar, sugar-free, fat-free. Let me just tell you guys, that's code for fake food. There's nothing healthy about it. People, that are reliant on, zero sugar, Coke, zero cal. All of that is fake food. Your health is going to be, worse eating the fake foods, the halo foods. The gluten-free foods are made by the same food industry that, and often the same companies that make the gluten food. And just so you guys know, gluten is code word for glue. We find it in our food. We find it in our makeup. We find it in all kinds of products. But anything, anything that is, again, fat-free, low sugar, no sugar, stuff like that, it's code for fake food, what I call frankenfoods. So just stay away from them. And what's unfortunate is people think they're making the right decisions. Because the marketing tells us, oh, there's no sugar in it. Oh, there's no fat in it. And then they wonder, well, why can't I lose weight? Why am I still so moody all the time? I'm doing all the right things. And you know what? And to their credit, most people think they're doing right by their body because they're following the marketing. But it couldn't be further from the truth. So get with a really good functional medicine doctor or functional medicine health coach, and find out what foods are right for your body, and and then clean it up first by doing a detox.
I found that that's my biggest thing is so many people think that they are eating well. Like I eat pretty well and my weight is still not coming down or whatever issue that they're dealing with. And it's like, well, when you only do what you know, you're only going to produce what you already have,
Yeah.
right? Until you go outside and actually elicit the help from an expert that actually has had experience in helping individuals do exactly that. You're not going to be able to discover what you need to do in order to really make that desired result happen.
Yeah. To that point, too, people think, and a lot of times they can be eating all the right foods. So let's just give you an example of some, clients and patients we hear at this center. Like people say, I'm eating more fruits and vegetables than ever before. Do we have enough time?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was just checking.
I'm eating lean proteins. I still can't lose weight. I'm still struggling. My joints are killing me. And so we'll suggest, all right, so let's do some gut testing, let's do some hormone testing, and let's do some food sensitivity testing. One of the things I wanted to focus on today was the importance of doing food sensitivity testing. And I think we touched on this before.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, what's healthy for one body, Nate, won't be healthy for somebody else's body. The foods, by design, the creator, created some wonderfully nutritious foods, but not everybody's body, can handle, certain foods like salmon for me is inflammatory. Blueberries for me are inflammatory. And
Really?
I wouldn't have known this unless I did some food sensitivity testing. Dairy for most people is grossly inflammatory. If we listen to the marketing, get your calcium and your vitamin D, and those are such poor vehicles for vitamin D and calcium. There are a lot healthier ways to get calcium, but people think, dairy, right? This is healthy. Couldn't be further from the truth. So take the time and do some good food sensitivity testing, because a lot of truly healthy foods like blueberries, salmons, avocados might not be a good fit for your body. And that's a common reason why people, still, get, aches and pains. They've got the brain fog. They're not getting the most out of their workouts. Is because, their foods are inflammatory to their brains and their body.
Yeah. Where's the best place to do like food sensitivity training or food sensitivity,
The Center for Integrative and Functional Health and Wellness.
Yeah, I would imagine. I set you up well for that one. I didn't mean to.
No. I figured that's the best place.
Yeah, I figured you guys probably did it, but wherever people do it,
don't. I think I've said this before. Don't settle for those crappy skin scratch tests.
Okay.
The ones where they dip it in the tray and then they put it. That can be a good crude marker, and we do that here. We don't do a lot of it because it tends to be not very reliable, and it's very limited in its scope of what it tests for. Yeah. So do some more extensive testing with blood testing or hair testing. Things stay in our hair a lot longer than they stay in our blood, and those types of tests will test for hundreds of different food sensitivities, including functional foods. Like functional foods would be like, spices like nutmeg or cinnamon or those kind of things. Okay. So if you're going to do food sensitivity testing, truly invest in it. Don't rely on the crappy stuff that your insurance company will pay for, because you're not going to really find out, what foods are, truly inflammatory for you. And then you can reverse food sensitivities too. You just have to, clean your body out for a little bit and then slowly reintroduce them. I know a lot of times people talk about elimination diets, but honestly, elimination diets are so slow. And a lot of times people don't realize that foods can cross-react with each other too.
Got it.
So, getting some accurate and extensive testing is really the key. And that stuff's not expensive. Honestly, it's not expensive. Yeah.
I think I'll probably throw that in with the mental really check and stuff like that. I think
you'd be surprised. I was talking to my client yesterday. She's like, mushrooms. I love mushrooms. I eat them all the time. I'm like, that's probably why you're sensitive to them, because you eat them all the time. Yeah. I said, but you don't have to divorce them all together.
Yeah.
Just for a little while. Let's just, clear out some of that inflammation in your body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
What other things that do we need to focus on? Probiotics.
Prebiotics, probiotics.
Okay, all of the above.
Yeah. Best to get them in their natural form, like sauerkraut and and kefir, yeah, I would say take a really good probiotic, take a really good prebiotic, because you're probably not going to get enough of what your body needs if you're just drinking kefir or eating sauerkraut. And who the heck wants to eat sauerkraut all day long? Yogurt.
Not this guy.
Yeah, not me. Yogurt's a good source, but be careful on, what yogurt you get, because a lot of times those live cultures, when they're dumped into all the sugar, they die off.
Yeah.
So the whole, what is it? That Jamie Lee Curtis, whatever yogurt, all of those probiotics are probably dead by the time they get to you.
Gotcha.
So best to get your probiotics in natural form.
Yeah.
From fermented foods. Kombucha is really good, but be careful on the sugars.
Sure.
Or from a good probiotic.
Okay.
And a lot of times too, I would recommend get your gut tested, because if you're only taking a probiotic and your whole gut is messed up, that's like sending one cop into a crime-ridden neighborhood. That cop's not going to make it out. So you're going to have to clean up and detox your gut, know what's going on, and then repopulate it with the right type of probiotics. And there are different types of probiotics.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but probiotics, prebiotics are really important for physical fitness and mental clarity.
Yeah. Well, and I think that too, like going back to the whole foods and going to, organic, choosing organic versus non-organic, And a lot of people, when they hear organic, they hear more expensive. And in some cases it is.
Yeah.
But when you realize how much value that's bringing to you, not only because you're getting some of like what actually is the good stuff for your gut that you need, that apple that's organic has the good stuff that was in the soil where it grew, whereas if you are eating a non-organic thing, not only are you not getting that good stuff for your gut, but you're also getting all of the pesticides and all of the additional stuff that they're throwing on top of it.
Yep.
It was a great movie I watched, a documentary called Kiss the Ground. I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
I've not seen it, but
fantastic. And it's obviously it's got a couple of political spins, just like all of that stuff does, right? But as far as like the way that we've stripped our lands and through farming of what's actually in the good soil. So in the cases where you can continue to eat organic, where you can get some of that stuff, but then also supplementation, the kefir, the, kombuchas, obviously, without a ton of sugar,
right.
Those sort of things. But it's so important because the gut, how important is the gut and everything that we're talking about?
It's considered our second brain.
Yeah.
And some experts consider our gut our first brain now, because it affects everything in our body, and everything in our brain. So getting organics is great. Yeah, a lot of people shy away because of the cost. But honestly, if money is a consideration, and it is for most people, let's face it, and nobody likes to spend money.
Sure.
We all want more of it, and we don't like to spend it. But if you're not sure what organics to get, refer to the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen.
Yeah.
So every year, there's a list that comes out called the Dirty Dozen, and it's those, the 12 foods, fruits and vegetables that are most susceptible to herbicides and pesticides. So if you can, buy organics of those. And then there's the Clean 15. An avocado would be an example of a Clean 15 because it's got a thicker skin to it. So that might be okay to, not go organic on that. Strawberries would be an example of something that's almost always on the Dirty Dozen because it's very, very thin. Yeah. So all of those pesticides and growth hormones and all that other stuff that goes into it's going to be absorbed. So if your budget's a consideration, you're not sure what fruits and vegetables to buy organic, look at the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15.
That's a good tip.
Yeah. And honestly, when I was learning about them, because again, they change every day, I'm like, what's the Dirty Dozen again? So I just printed out a list and I took it to the supermarket with me. I'm like, oh yeah. And and an easy way to remember it, if it's not on the Dirty Dozen, it's okay probably to buy non-organic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
Also, consider individual needs. Like I was saying, not everybody's body can tolerate the truly healthy foods. So consult with a good, functional medicine doctor or functional medicine health coach. If you're going to consult with a nutritionist or a dietitian, check to see that their credentials, that they've at least done some studying in functional medicine, because most dietitians that their food plans aren't really healthy. And it's not through any fault of their own, but the curriculum isn't the healthiest either.
Gotcha.
I don't know if you've ever visited somebody on the cardiac unit in the hospital and they've got the cardiac diet by the dietitian, and you look at the plate and you're like, that shiz'll kill ya.
Yeah.
Because it truly is. So if you're going to get with a dietitian or nutritionist,
okay,
I would recommend you find somebody that's got some credentials in functional medicine.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a good tip.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything else that we're missing here, Dr. Amy?
Mind-body
I've got some
connection.
really good mind-body connection.
Mind-body connection.
Yeah.
Deep breathing, yoga, nature baths. I think we touched on nature baths before, but research shows, for enhancing our physical fitness, move your body. Best if you can move it outside doing something. The more you can expose yourself to nature, the better. So walking around your neighborhood is great, but if you can walk around the forest preserve instead, that's even better. If you can walk around the forest preserve that has a little lake, that's even better. So you're bathing yourself in nature. But when you connect to your mind and body through something like that, your physical fitness is going to be enhanced and you'll have more mental clarity. Because you're moving your body, and nature's really, really peaceful.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's peaceful. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got the pastor of my church calls it a wonder walk too. Because not only does it give you that bath of nature, but it also just allows you to be able to just see the things around you that you can be hopeful about and just kind of check out and just have a deeper connection that you don't normally get in the busyness of the world.
Yeah. So like one final thing with that, it kind of just brings it back to balance. Have a wonder walk, balance, your healthy foods, balance that with movement, balance it with good, healthy, harmonious relationships. Those are the keys, it's balance. And then when you feel like, I'm going to say stepping out, and having some Doritos with, guacamole, of course, or that ice cream, just do it, do it on occasion. Do it on occasion. Oh, I forgot alcohol. If you're really wanting to fuel your body and fuel your mind, either decrease your alcohol or eliminate it altogether. And I know that's really hard to do in our culture because we celebrate around food, we celebrate around alcohol. If you're going to have it, have it on occasion. But you'll find, to your point earlier, nothing tastes as good as healthy feels. So fuel the body, fuel the mind. I like to say.
We've I love that. We've definitely gone through a lot of things and a lot of tips. And if someone was listening to this, right, like I was it wasn't that long ago that I was knew nothing about any of these things, right? It's very easy to take these things and just say, I can't possibly do every one of these things right now. And no one expects you to, right?
No
one expects you to.
Nope and noper.
It's just over time, implementing one or two of these things so that you can be at a point where you look back 3 years from now, 4 years from now. And because you've started to make healthy decisions, that you've got all of these compounded decisions and compounded habits that now have been implemented in your life. Right? It's not a flipping a switch and all of a sudden I'm going to be this healthy individual and I'm going to take a walk every day. I'm going to eat organic food. I'm going to, all of a sudden you've got no money, no time. And,
and you're stressed because you can't fit it all in.
Your kids are on the street and, you've lost your job. Like it's if you were to do all of these things, life would stop as you know it currently. I think that one of my major takeaways from all of this is just whole foods, like getting away from the processed foods as much as possible. Like if God created it, I eat it.
Yeah.
And if you stick to that as much as possible in all that you do, have the occasional, cheat days, and not even calling them cheat days, right? Because it's, but the occasional, opportunities to eat. But my typical like our cadence in our family is more like I basically eat like I was on a detox, so more whole foods, no processed foods, all that kind of stuff throughout the week, and then we're a little bit more flexible on Saturdays and Sundays. And we have just a little bit more flexibility. Now we don't go buck wild. I don't go binge drink and eat pizza all day long and all these different things, right?
I thought I saw you on TikTok. That wasn't you?
No, it probably was actually. Probably was.
I'm kidding.
Because I like to have fun, right? But at the same time, like, we've learned to kind of temper those things, just to make sure that, like, hey, let's honor the bodies that we've been given, right?
It's
Rather
the only
than
vehicle you have.
it's the only one that you got.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to make sure that we honor it well so that it continues to run for as long as possible and we stay as young as long as possible. And
Yeah, for sure.
Can pass things along to our kids.
I like that, if the creator created it, you eat it. I like that. That's a good starting point, because you're right. We can't eliminate and do all these things at once. For me, I've committed to eliminating junk food Monday through Friday. And on Saturday, if I want to relax and have some Doritos or some popcorn or whatever, or, a cocktail, I'll do that. But for the most part, Monday through Friday, I'm just going to clean eat. But I've learned to be able to do that over time. If I just, did that cold turkey and I've never done it before, it's going to be a struggle. So, if somebody's just starting from scratch, I'd say reduce your sugar. I'd say eat fewer grains. I'd say, or pick drinking a lot more water. Because here's the thing. A lot of times people mistake hunger for thirst.
Oh, yeah.
So if you want to start with one thing, start by drinking a lot more water. And if you ever have to choose between healthy food and exercise, always opt for healthy food. But choose one thing. And a lot of times people are like, well, I really don't want to take anything out of my diet. So I'll say, how about adding something in? Add more fresh fruits and vegetables, because what you'll find is if you're adding in more of those micro and macronutrients, you're going to be less inclined to eat all the junk food. So pick one small thing and let it compound.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. For me, I would say, drink a lot more water or cut out your junk food during the week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
awesome.
Thanks, Dr. Amy. This was really helpful.
You're welcome.
And look
It's
forward
fun
to
too. I love this stuff.
having some more conversations.